Struggling single dad gave his last $10 at the subway station, not knowing she was a CEO millionaire and it was another freezing evening in New York City. The streets were crowded, neon lights buzzing above the subway entrance, and the rush of people coming and going seemed endless. Yet among that crowd walked a man who looked invisible to the world, a tired, struggling single dad named Ethan Carter. His clothes were worn out, his shoes scuffed, and his face carried the weight of sleepless nights. Clutched in his hand was a crumpled $10 bill, the very last money he had until payday. Ethan wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, waiting at home. She loved pancakes, and he had promised he would buy her some milk and flour that night. $10 wasn't much, but to Ethan and Lily, it meant dinner and hope for one more day. As he walked toward the subway entrance, a faint sound caught his attention. A woman sat on the cold concrete near the stairwell, shivering, with nothing but a thin jacket wrapped around her. Her head was down, and in front of her sat a cardboard sign that read, "Hungry. Lost everything. Please help." Most people passed by without even glancing at her. Some even turned away in annoyance. But Ethan stopped. His heart tightened. He knew that kind of pain. He knew what it felt like to have nothing. He hesitated, glancing at the $10 bill in his hand, then back at the woman. His mind screamed, "This is all I have left. Lily needs this." But his heart whispered, "She needs it more than you right now." Slowly, with trembling fingers, Ethan walked up to her and placed the bill in her hand. "It's not much," he said gently, "but maybe you can get a hot meal tonight." The woman looked up, her eyes wide in surprise. She wasn't what he expected. Behind the dirt on her face and the tears in her eyes was a spark, a dignity hidden beneath hardship. She whispered, almost in disbelief, You're giving me your last money, aren't you?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Doesn't matter. My daughter has a roof over her head, and we'll figure things out. But you look like you need this tonight." Without waiting for a thank you, he turned and walked away into the crowd, disappearing like any ordinary man. What Ethan didn't know was that the woman sitting there wasn't truly homeless. Her name was Olivia Hayes, and she was one of the youngest self-made CEOs in the city. She had built her empire from nothing, but she never forgot her own struggles growing up on the streets. That night, she had gone undercover after a long, exhausting day, needing to see for herself if compassion still existed in the world, or if success had blinded her to the truth of humanity. And there, in the middle of the subway station, she found her answer. The next morning, Ethan went back to work at the auto repair shop. His hands were rough, his back ached, and the pay barely covered rent. Yet he carried on, because Lily was his reason for breathing. That night, as he sat with her in their tiny apartment, they shared toast and water for dinner. Lily smiled anyway, hugging him tightly. "You're the best dad in the world," she whispered, and in that moment, Ethan felt richer than any millionaire alive. But life had its way of surprising him. 2 days later, while Ethan was working on an old car in the shop, a sleek black car pulled up outside. Out stepped the same woman from the subway, though this time, she looked completely different. Elegant, confident, and radiant, dressed in a sharp suit. Ethan almost dropped his wrench when he recognized her. "Mr. Carter?" she asked softly. He wiped his hands nervously. Do I know you?" A warm smile spread across her face. "Yes. 2 nights ago. At the subway station. You gave me your last $10. Ethan's heart skipped. "That was you?" "But, he didn't know what to say. "I owe you an explanation," Olivia said gently. She told him everything, how she had grown up poor, how she sometimes disguised herself to remember where she came from, and how his small act of kindness had touched her more deeply than he could imagine. Ethan stood frozen, embarrassed. "It was nothing," he mumbled. "I just did what anyone should do." But Olivia shook her head. "No. Most people walked past me. You didn't. You gave, even when you had nothing to spare. That is everything. Over the next few weeks, Olivia made it her mission to help Ethan. She invited him to lunch, met Lily, and soon learned the truth about his struggles. His wife had passed away years ago, leaving him to raise Lily alone, with no family to lean on. He worked day and night, yet he was always there for his daughter. Inspired by his resilience, Olivia offered him a job at her company. Not out of pity, but because she saw something rare in him: honesty, integrity, and heart. At first, Ethan refused. "I don't need charity," he said. But Olivia assured him, "This isn't charity. This is opportunity. You earned it." Finally, he accepted. Months passed, and Ethan's life began to change. He worked hard, proved himself, and climbed positions quickly. He no longer worried about putting food on the table. More importantly, he could finally give Lily the life she deserved: school, books, a safe home. But perhaps the greatest transformation wasn't material. It was in Ethan's belief that kindness, no matter how small, always comes back in ways you can never imagine. One evening, standing at the very same subway station where it all began, Ethan held Lily's hand. He looked around at the people rushing by and whispered, "Always help when you can, sweetheart. Even if it's just a little. Because one day, that little bit can change everything." Lily smiled up at him, her eyes sparkling with hope. "Just like you did, Daddy." And Ethan knew, in that moment, their story was no longer one of struggle, it was one of faith, kindness, and second chances. Light bulb message for the viewers. The smallest act of kindness can ripple into a wave of change. You never know how far one simple choice to care can reach. What you give in love and compassion, the world always finds a way to return.